overall good person that we like. There's a specific section in the AdSess, I believe, called awards. So if you want to put awards in that category, Members of the Month is something that qualifies for that for sure. And I would recommend that you all try and attend as many events so you can be considered, because I feel like everybody on eBoard at one point has been awarded Member of the Month or something equivalent to it. So we're going to talk about this person. Who wants to talk about this Member of the Month? Yeah, I feel like it should be Alec.
Ooh.
All right.
It's a little bias of me, I think. You talk? No? Okay. So, we've had a couple of meetings and a couple of socials, but someone that's actually helped us out a lot and come up with, actually helped me with ideas, social ideas, helped me bring the food, and just being, an overall spirited person and really dedicated to dentistry. My roommate, actually, Adrian. So, Adrian. So, like Rahul said, it is something that you can put in your AdSess, and I did get asked about it, too. So, you never know.
Sweet.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Great job. So I'd like to announce our guest speaker. We have Western University's admission recruiter coming to speak to us today about their dental school.
Thank you very much.
His name is Dr. Kirchi.
Now, my voice doesn't carry all that well, so if you guys can't hear me, let me know, and maybe we can do a microphone type thing. Anyway, thank you guys for letting me join you here. It's really a great, big group. This is fantastic. I do a bunch of different things at the school we'll talk about in just a few minutes, and I hope we're going to leave as much time for questions as you guys have, because I'm in probably less of a rush than you guys. The later that I leave, the less traffic there will be. So, again, no problem for me. You guys probably have to go study and stuff. So this is actually our school. How many people have actually heard of Western? Because there's still a few that have not. So most of you guys. I was doing this kind of thing on the East Coast a few weeks ago, and as you might guess, there's less people there. But I've been doing that kind of thing for about 3 years now, and it's getting more and more. Looking at our applications, we're getting really applications from almost every state now, so it's good. We want to let people know who we are. We've now been there, I guess it's 8 years. We've had 4 graduating classes, so we're starting to get in the flow. Our dean likes to say we're 7 years old, which is like 7-year-old is like one of the most obnoxious ages of any kid, so we're getting a little obnoxious, but that's okay. So I want to tell you a little bit about me, just so you know where I'm coming from, and it's not because I like talking about myself. It's mostly because I want everybody to know here there's not just a single path to go to dental school and then become a dentist, because it really isn't. So the first thing, I don't know if you guys are more shocked by the fact that I have a degree in history or that I went to that other school across the way. Okay. So yeah, it's the truth. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Anyway, but so I ended up at UOP Pacific for dental school. I then was in private practice for about 18 years. I worked as both as an associate, which is an employee dentist, and then as a practice owner. I had to retire due to some arthritis issues, and I started to work for a dental manufacturer. It's a pretty well-known company in dentistry. You guys will hear about them later, G. Merida. And I worked for them for several 6 or 7 years, doing a lot of different consulting and different things that they never even knew having a dentist on board would be able to do. I then started teaching at UCLA Dental School for about 1.5 years. I was part-time, and then this job at Western opened up, and it is closer to my house, but it's really more than that, closer to the philosophy of the dental school I went to. So University Pacific really was one of the first schools in the early 70s that decided to stop treating their students horribly. Because dental school used to be taught through fear and intimidation, and the dean at the time said, you know what, maybe that's not the best way to train people to go out and take care of other people. So they really started this humanistic model mid-70s, and for me, when I went to dental school, that was a good fit for me. So it's also a good fit for me to be at Western, because the philosophy is very similar. So if you look at my title there, and each time, my titles keep getting longer and longer. So I'm an assistant professor there, which means I teach some classes. So I'll teach some of the first and second year students in the simulation lab. I also teach the 3rd and 4th years. I'm the the course director for our practice management classes. There's 3 of them they take in their 3rd and 4th years. So I also, again, I work with students like you guys who haven't applied yet. I help students get in because I'm also the manager of admissions and recruitment. I teach them in their 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year. And then my last job there is the coordinator of CE. Continuing ed is something you have to do to keep your license after you get out of dental school. You've got to take 50 hours of CE every 2 years in California to keep your license. So I feel like I'm kind of lucky that I get to really, it's cradle to grave what I do with our students. So I'm even dealing with some of our alumni there and helping them get their CE also. But again, my main point of me telling you this is that I don't want anybody to think that if I'm not a biology major and I don't get in right after I get out of undergrad, it's not going to work. In fact, we had a great conversation a few minutes ago about how the average age of our 1st year class right now is 26. And there's people of all different backgrounds and people that have 3 or 4 kids, people that are just out of undergrad. It's a real mix. It's a different time for everybody. So I have a brother who's a dentist as well. And he started dental school when he was 20. He got out of dental school just before his 24th birthday because we both went to UOP, 3-year program, as you might know. So I didn't go till I was 27. So I got out when I was 30. So here, 2 people in the same house growing up had very different paths and both ended up in the same place. So I don't want anyone to be discouraged if they feel like, you know, I'm not really sure that I want to do this yet or any of that. I mean, you go when it's time and there's tons of different ways to get there. So if you don't know that much about the whole university at Western, there's actually 9 colleges. There's 21 degree programs within those colleges. The dental medicine is in red because we're the best. We are. The provost told me we are the shining star of the university, which, okay, I believe it. But it's really nice because when we talk about this interprofessional education, we do have, in fact, today it started, this IPE course for our 1st year students, where they go into a room, they look at different real patient cases with 1 student from every one of these other colleges. And it's really incredible when you're in there to find out how much other people have to offer. Even the veterinary students, you would think, you know, what do they have to offer with this particular case? But they do. So it's all a matter of what they're talking now about, it's called One Health. If you look that up and you kind of find it's a new philosophy in healthcare that looks at everything, every part of the patient, even the patient's environment. So, you know, some veterinarians don't work with little cats and dogs and cute little animals. They're even food vets, and they have to be concerned about what are the animals that we're eating, and what's their environment like. So it's really very, very involved and all connected, as we're finding out. So it's a really good opportunity because we don't have anything else there other than these 9 colleges. There's no undergrad, there's nothing else. So the whole campus is just filled with graduate level healthcare students. So I just want to talk a little bit about our mission statement. I know you guys can all read. I'm not going to read it to you. There's a couple of things here that I want to actually touch on a little bit. So we feel like we have a very innovative curriculum, which means that the way we're teaching is really changing some of the rules. For our gross anatomy class that our 1st year students just finished already, they started in August. They're already done with gross anatomy because it's very intense. It's all at the beginning, and they just finished it up about a week or so ago. But we're using something a little different. We're using this platform called Realize It. And so we have several different ways that we're doing gross anatomy. For gross anatomy, we're not using cadavers anymore. Head and neck, yes, still using cadavers. So what with this Realize It platform, there's several different parts to it. I don't know if anybody has seen anything about this anatomage table. So it's really like a giant iPad. It was developed up at Stanford, which we can all decide to not like together, as Pac-12 South people. But it's like a giant iPad. And it's really interesting. In fact, look how happy our students are. They're having such a good time. But they're real people. They're real cadavers that we're looking at. They're real scans. And you can do all kinds of things with it. You can spin this person over, this here in this picture, that person's face up. And they're taking away certain parts of the anatomy so they can research. This time it's flipped over and they've taken away all the soft tissue. But this is the way our students are learning gross anatomy. So part of the problem with the gross anatomy course that I took is we went in there and we had this cadaver and there was 8 of us around it. And after about 3 days of just staring at it going, I can't believe we're doing this, we said, oh gee, we're going to have to learn this stuff. So we started doing the dissections. Was anybody a professional dissector? No. So we're doing this on our own. We're doing the best we can. And I think a lot of the time we ended up destroying parts of the anatomy we were supposed to see because our particular cadaver, we called her Stephanie, happened to be a very overweight person, and there was a lot of adipose or fatty tissue. So we're in there scooping out all the fatty tissue to try to find what we needed to see, and a lot of the time what we needed to see was then gone. It was in the bowl with all the fat, because we really didn't know what we were doing. So in this case, everybody's looking at the same cadaver. Everyone's being able to see it in the most pristine condition, and I think able to learn it. And actually, this is the second year, this last class, the second year we've used this, and the test scores have all gone up. In fact, everybody passed gross anatomy, which was incredible. We're also using something called Oculus Rift. Now, a few months ago, I thought I was really telling you guys something new and different that you didn't know about. I didn't realize this is used heavily in gaming by people your age, so you guys already know what this is. But I was able to try this myself, and it reminded me about when my kids were little, and we used to watch that Magic School Bus show on TV, and it used to go through the body, and I thought that was pretty cool. And that's what it's like. So you put those on, and you go through whatever part of the body you want to look at, and there's actually narration telling you what you're seeing. So it's very, very cool, all three dimensions. This is another part of what we have in what we call our virtual reality learning center. It's called the Z-Space, and it's a little desktop. We have several of them out there. And again, you can look at the cadaver, these models. These are not real cadavers here, but you can take pieces away, and it's all three-dimensional. So the glasses here are 3D, and you're able to really learn very well. We also have these other like iPad type devices that our students will, if you can see them, they're sitting about 5 or 6 of them there, and then there's one person who's kind of doing the teaching. A lot of times it's a graduate student, that's a dental student, that was a graduate from our master's program, who took the course the year before. And when they go through some of this and looking at different systems, the facilitator is actually one of their classmates who took the class the year prior to that. So these are the ways that we're learning our gross anatomy. And I think, again, saying this is pretty innovative is not too much of a stretch. Another thing we're doing is we feel like we're using a lot of advanced technology. And I want to kind of give you a few examples of this. This is something called the Moog, and we have 2 of these devices. We don't have one for everybody because they're super expensive. But what these do is it allows our students to cut preparations as they would on their Typodon teeth. But if they goof it up, they hit a button, hit reset, and it starts all over. If you can see in this one picture here on the bottom right, the guy is actually holding a handpiece in his hand. It doesn't have a burr in it, it's not spinning, it's not actually touching anything. This is all virtual. So he's using that handpiece and he's getting what they call haptic feedback. So he's getting some feeling on the handpiece that he's actually cutting the tooth. The little monitor you see on the bottom left-hand screen is next to the unit, and a faculty member can stand there and give them feedback. So our students will rotate through this while they're in SimLab and be able to use this, because Typodon teeth are about $2 a piece. So we use this in addition to traditional Typodon. This is also something that a lot of dental schools are doing, CAD/CAM, computer-assisted design, crowns or inlays on teeth. You guys heard about CAD/CAM before for dentistry? Yeah. It's not super new. It's gotten better and better over the years, where to the point is now I feel like it's clinically acceptable. The first few iterations of it, I felt like the crowns didn't fit really properly, but it's much, much better now. What's unique about this is that the students that you're seeing are actually first-year dental students. So I think it's fairly unique that this is being taught in the simulation lab. And we have a bunch of these units, and our students will go through there, and you can see this is the girl with the blonde hair. That's Justy. She's fabulous. She's holding a Typodon in her hand, and she actually cut the prep herself with a traditional handpiece, and now she's scanning it into the computer, and we have milling devices that will then make the crown to fit that. So what's unique about it is we're doing this in the preclinical simulation lab. I don't think that's happening too many places. We also have a lot of these CAD/CAM devices in the clinic as well, and are using it on case-by-case basis. But to get this exposure at this point is pretty good. Something else I want to tell you guys, I don't think I have it in here, I don't think. But all of our students are also becoming Invisalign certified before they graduate. So the day you graduate, if you want to go do an Invisalign course, the clear orthodontics, it's $2,500 for the initial base course. but we're having our students get certified by Invisalign before they graduate. So this is a machine you guys have probably seen before. If you had orthodontics, then certainly that arm that's going out, you had that x-ray taken. It looks like that, called a cephalometric exam. This machine will take that. This machine also takes what we call a panoramic x-ray too. Now what's unique about this is that this is digital x-rays. They're not film anymore. The old panoramic films that we used to take in dentistry that were on a film were so dark and unreadable you really couldn't do it other than see, does this person have wisdom teeth? That was about it. These new digital scans are very clear and we can use them for a lot more. So that cephalometric, let's see, oh it does work. This ceph is taken by this arm here. This panoramic is taken by this U-shaped tube. But this U-shaped tube can also take another x-ray that's actually three-dimensional. So it's called 3D or cone beam imaging. And we have this in the clinic and we use it, again, as needed. Now the images don't look like this. I'm showing you the three fields of view. We can see x-rays. Typically we take x-rays from the side and we can look at it this way. These x-rays will go from front to back, so we can look at the teeth this way, and also from the top of your head to your chin. So the x-rays we take really look more like this. So for instance, typical thing, patient comes in, this tooth hurts, I want to bite on it, I don't know what's going on, it just hurts. We take an x-ray that looks kind of like this one or that one, and we say, well, I can't really tell. But when we take an x-ray that goes from the front of the face to the back, and this is all the patient's gone at this point, this image is saved, and we can scan all the way through the tooth in every dimension on the computer after they're gone. But we look at this x-ray here, and you're like, you don't have to be a dentist to say, boy, that tooth has a big crack in it. We also see the crack when we're looking at it from the top going down. So a lot of times the three-dimensional imaging is really helpful for diagnosing things, for where we're going to place implants to make sure that we're not hitting a nerve, but even more so for doing root canals. Root canals are typically done, and those guys, I don't know how they do it, it's basically they're doing it blind almost the whole time. This way they can really see all dimensions. Again, we have that machine that you saw is on the clinic floor and we use it as needed. So when I went to dental school, I felt like I was very lucky. As I said, I went a little later in life. I was 27. I felt very fortunate to be there. I finally got a little more mature than I had before that. And I just felt like whatever they tell me to do, I'm going to do it. I'm finding that most dental students are not that way. They ask a lot of questions. They're very curious. The thing is, I figured out when I got done with school, I said, it all makes sense now. I know why we did everything along the way to get to this point. Because the only way that you can graduate and pass the boards is you need to jump through all these other hoops. So in the first year and a half or so, you take all these basic and biomedical science classes. That's preparing you, not just for patient care, because you need to know that to take care of a person, but you also need to pass part 1 of national boards. That's a test, a written test that's taken. It's 1 day, 4 tests after your second year, and it's all basic science stuff. If you don't pass that, you can't graduate. The dental sciences like orthodontics, periodontics, all the other ontics and dontics, you're also going to get tested on that at the end of your 3rd year. That's National Boards Part 2. It's 8 tests over 2 days. And you have to pass Part 1 and Part 2 to graduate and then be eligible to try to get your license so you can practice. So what I figured out at the end is that everything that was done was looking at these major goals along the way. Now, by the time you guys go to dental school, they're talking about making all the national boards into one big, massive exam. They haven't done it yet, so right now it's still Part 1, Part 2, after 2nd year, after 3rd year. So I realized it's like, so if our students ask, we say, this is why, because we want you to pass. In terms of comprehensive patient care in the clinic, this is training you to not only learn how to take care of patients properly, the #1 thing, but it's training you to be able to pass licensing examinations. So most of our students take an exam called the REB. It's Western Regional Examination Board. That gives you a license in like 40 states, including California. And so most of them are taking that one. And all the stuff we're teaching them in the clinic is preparing them to pass reps, because that's work you do on some benchtop, but some patients as well. And that's how you get eligible for the licensure. Another big part of our program that doesn't appeal to everybody, but it's something you really need to know about if you want to apply to Western, is that you have to be comfortable or maybe even excited about doing what we call community-based dentistry. It's working in several different venues with people that don't typically have access to care. Now, I have to tell you that I had an office down in Orange County in Mission Viejo. I had all these uppity patients, and it was a nice area, blah, 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 blah. My favorite day of the month is when I would go to the clinic in Santa Ana, and I would work for free, and I would have people come up to me and hug me because I got their little kid out of pain, and you didn't get paid a dime, but it's like people that wanted to be there and very appreciative, as opposed to my patients. Anybody here from Mission Viejo? All right, you know what I'm talking about. I still live down there, I know. But it's just different. When people have access to care, they sometimes take it for granted. And a lot of the kids would come in and they would just like, oh, I hate the dentist, I don't want to be here. And I'm just like, man, you're so lucky that you have access to care, because we see a lot of kids especially who've never seen a dentist before. And it's a big part of our program. So it's something that you really need to know about our school if that appeals to you. Or if it doesn't too, that's okay too. And again, all tied together with the IPE opportunity that we have because we have all the other colleges. This course, it's really more than a course. It goes over all 4 years. It's called ECD, or Essentials of Clinical Dentistry. This is what you'll see actually on the in the pictures here. This is in the sim lab. So a lot of ECD is what we do in the sim lab, learning how to cut these preparations and learning how to become technically sound so you can go and safely treat a patient. So if you can see at the bottom what's in yellow, this is all about getting you ready to take care of people, whether it's in our clinic at school, called the Dental Center, or any of the community-based sites that we have as well. I think one of the most important things that we do with our students, and I don't know if other dental schools do it as well, is we teach them to be able to judge themselves. So before I'll go and grade any kind of a preparation a student's done, they've already graded it themselves based on a rubric, and they have a peer assess it as well. Because we feel like we can't wait till they get out of dental school to say, okay, now you're on your own, now you've got to figure it out if it's right or wrong. So from day one, the first prep they cut as a first-year student, we want them to say, this is terrible. And I say, you're right, that's terrible. But guess what? That's good that you knew it was terrible. I don't like when people come up and just go, what do you think? What do you think? We want them to be able to judge it for themselves, because when they get out of school, which happens so fast, and they're on their own, they're not an instructor, they're not going to get a start check when they're out practicing. So we want them to be able to judge their own work and know if it's going to be clinically acceptable. So, and it's done in a very nice, friendly way. We don't try to, and they always downgrade themselves, of course. I'm usually saying, no, it's not a 3.5, it's a 4, you did good out of 5. So they tend to undergrade themselves. I know, it's a mental game with me. It's playing that whole, if I go lower, he'll go higher. I'm not as dumb as I look. I keep trying to tell them. So this is our clinic. It's fairly new because we're a pretty new school. When the school opened, the dental school opened, this clinic wasn't even there. So it's only been used for a few years, and you got to remember the first 2 years the school was open, nobody was in there because all we had was first-year students and then first and second-year students. So they weren't really working much in the clinic as well. So it's nice, it's new, it's clean, it's modern. You already know the X-ray machine that we have. In every operatory, you can see, I don't know if you guys can see over there, there's 2 computer monitors. Typically, one will have the patient X-rays and the other will have the treatment plan. What we do is what we call comprehensive patient care. It's something that we teach, and it's something you should do for the rest of your careers. So it's going to happen to you. If you're out practicing, someone's going to walk in and say, hey, my neighbor's a patient of yours. They said you're a great dentist. I chipped my front tooth. Just a little piece broke off. It looks bad. I have a meeting I have to go to in a couple hours. Can you just bond something on there? The answer to the question is, of course, you can. Easy. Don't even get him numbers. Just bond the stuff on there and let him go to his meeting. The problem is, once you put that patient in the chair, they become what we call a patient of record. And if there's anything else going on in their head, places you're responsible for, and you only fix the one tooth and let them go, you're now going to be held responsible. They go back to their original dentist or to another dentist and say, man, you have this big tumor growing down here. It's like, well, I just went to Dr. Turchi a little while ago and he fixed my tooth. He didn't say anything about it, because then they become, the victim. So anytime you put someone in the chair, you've got to do a complete examination, in school, out of school. So we're really big on doing complete everything, checking their teeth, checking their gums, oral cancer screening, everything. Big health history, medications, the whole thing. We do a general dentistry model, which means as a general dentist, you have to decide any procedure. Now, does anybody know here, what dental procedures can a general dentist not do? Think of any? Place implants? Can a general dentist place an implant?
Yes.
Extract wisdom teeth?
Yes.
Can they do orthodontics?
Yes.
Yes.
You guys are kind of up on it. Yeah, they can do anything. A general dentist can do anything within the scope of dentistry. The only problem is there's always a but. It has to be at the same level as the specialist. So you can't do a root canal on an upper second molar, which is tough. And when it turns out bad, you can't say, well, I'm just a general dentist. I did my best. It doesn't work in court. It won't fly. So what we do is we start to teach our students to learn what can I do and what should I refer. So there's how many dental specialties?
9.
Thank you. Said with confidence. I like that. Usually when I hear somebody say this, I can't even tell you so. Thank you. Excellent. Can you name them all? No, I'm kidding. That's all right. Sometimes I have trouble remembering all. But there are 9 dental specialties. In the clinic, we have general dentists that are these managing partner team leaders. There's 3 for every group. Each group is about 18 students, 6-to-1 ratio. Not a math major, but I can figure that one out. So the managing partner and the team leaders are general dentists. There's 3 of them. So if they look at a patient and everybody decides that maybe we should get the specialist, we have one of every specialist at least in the clinic as well. So we'll bring over the orthodontist or the endodontist or the oral surgeon. So that's what a general dentist does. The general dentist decides what they can do and what should be referred. And we really try to do that at the very beginning. Something else that we do that's fairly unique, and I have to say, when I was at UCLA, not knocking them too much, but my students used to come in, because I worked in the clinic at that point, and a student would come in and throw a chart on my desk and say, oh, look, I finally found that partial denture I needed to graduate. And I pick up the chart and I look at it and I say, well, that's a person. Her name's Helen Jones, and she has a phone number and an email address. But the problem was is that because everything was based on bean counting, you got to do so many of this to graduate, then the students started to look at the patients as procedures as not as people. So what we do is something called procedure competency assessment, which means when you want to make sure that you know how to do a crown on a tooth, you'll pick one to do and say, this is the one I want to do for a test case. You do it, and if you do it properly, you're done. That's it. You're checked off for crowns. Now, does that mean you're not going to do any more crowns? No, because we do comprehensive patient care. That means whatever the patient needs, you're going to continue to do. But it allows our students to continue to look at the people as people that need help, not procedures. But we do the same thing in dental school. We do X amount of every procedure, and as graduation gets closer, people start getting panicky, and I think the level of caring about our patients might suffer. Something else we do the first year that they're pretty much in the clinic for at least a whole half a day is what we call practice management rotations. We make them work in every part of the clinic, whether it's calling the insurance company, confirming patients, sterilization, so they understand how a dental office works. Because a dental school is just a giant group practice. Now you can have 4 or 5 dentists and make it a group practice. Our clinic has got 140 dentists in there, but it's the same thing. It's a group practice, all the computer works the same way, but we want them to understand how the whole thing works. So even if they go out and work as an associate in his office, which is an employee employed by another dentist, I still want them to understand how does this whole thing work, because the more efficient the office is, that means the longer they're going to stay employed. Because the office has to make money to be able to pay an associate. So if you know what's supposed to be going on, that's better. You don't have to be a practice owner if you need that. So that's a light green. So this is a little bit about our community-based dental program. And I'll just touch on this real quick because I want you guys to understand it's part of all 4 years. So even in your first year, when you don't know very much yet, you're going to go out in what we call a CSL rotation, community service learning. And you might go to an elementary school that has a school-based clinic. So it's really, has anybody ever seen a school-based clinic before? Like dental chairs in a school? It's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
The kids just come right out of class, they go next door, and they get their work done. And it's typically kids that don't have access to care. So you might go there, and what you're doing there is either assisting or you're doing oral hygiene instruction. So you're taking a little kid that's never even owned a toothbrush, and you're giving them one, and you're showing them how to use it, how to floss, and they usually say, thank you, doctor. And you're like, doctor, I just got here, But it makes you start to understand, this is how the public sees you. You're this healthcare provider. So even our first year students are already starting to understand how they're seen. By about the middle to end of second year, most of our students will get credentialed to do prophies or cleanings. And so they can either do prophies in our clinic or they can do the prophies out in the community-based clinics as well. So they'll actually start treating patients in their end of their second year. Third year for community-based, if they're not working in our clinic, they'll go to a certain site for the whole day. And whatever they need to do, they do. A lot of extractions, a lot of restorations. Again, with community-based clinics, the type of work you're doing, it's a lot of extractions, a lot of dentures, a lot of doing like silver amalgam fillings, things like that. In their fourth year, they'll actually go on a rotation to a sort of particular site, and they'll be there for 7 weeks straight. So the thing is, at every dental school, here, our school, UCLA, all of them, in your fourth year when you're in clinic all day, you're lucky if you see one patient in the morning and one in the afternoon. That's if they both show up. It's every dental school. It's just the way it works. So when you go to these rotations and you're there, you're probably going to see 8 or 10 patients a day because they're going to rotate them through. You have dental assistants. It's a real clinic where you're working. And they've got to be profitable to stay in business. But again, it's going to be all community-based. I was very fortunate at UOP. There was a clinic that we had in Sacramento, and I was able to actually go 7 times. I went 7 weeks because we would go there and stay for the week. We didn't get credit for the work we did there, but I got my requirements done quicker, so I would always raise my hand to go. And it was like working in a real dental office. You'd see 8 or 10, I mean, we used to call it extractamento because we took out so many teeth. That's all we would do, take out teeth, deliver dentures. And you're seeing and you're doing suturing. And it's like you went from being dental student to, yeah, I'm ready to graduate. So to me, that's one of the most important parts of any dental school's curriculum is anything you do as an externship, usually as a senior student. These are some of the pictures of our community-based opportunities. The one that's right in the middle, see the guy with the purple tie? That's our dean, Steve Frederickson. And if you can barely see it up there, it says Care Dental up at the top. So this is a clinic that we just opened, that we own ourselves as a school in Rancho Mirage. It's all for special needs patients. And it'll be one of the rotations that our students go to. Plus it's going to be an AEGD residency program that's a postgrad. So when you graduate, you can either do a specialty, you can go right into practicing general dentistry. There's also what they call GPR, general practice residency, typically hospital-based, or an AEGD program, which is like an extra year of dental school / private practice. So this will be, we'll have 2 residents here starting next year in this program. And Rancho Mirage is not such a bad place. But there's a big need, so that's what's nice about it. So here's the nuts and bolts. Last year we got a little over 2,800 applications. We're actually almost there now. This year we're about 40% above what we got last year. We were supposed to interview 380 people. We interviewed 376. And there's the average GPAs. We don't really look at the overall GPA that much, I have to tell you. Average science GPA, and then the DAT scores were right at 20. This is our class that's now first years. So something I do want to tell you though, our school's a little bit different. I think I'll get to this in a second. Hang on. More nuts and bolts. So these are the same for every year. So these are the dates for people applying this cycle. How many people are applying like right now? You're in the cycle. Good for you. Everything's in?
Yes.
Okay, good. Applying early is key. You really have to, or you should if you can. But it really goes from June 1st to December 1st. You have 6 months to apply. For us, and again, check every school because it's not always the same. For us, you have to take the DAT by October 15th for it to count. I can't even tell you why. But that's the rule. And nobody will get accepted without being interviewed. We're going to start calling people. I think this year, December 3rd will be the first day that we will make phone calls to accept students. This is something that's really important. And for those of you who haven't applied yet, it used to be that every dental school had the same prereqs. These. Biochem, organic, physics, which I don't know why I have to take physics. And English.
Preach.
Makes no sense. Sorry. I cut it, so. But it's changed. So there are some dental schools now, if any of you are brave enough to apply to UCLA, I think they want a semester of biochem, for example. I think University of Utah wants microbiology. So any school you're applying to, go on their website and make sure there's nothing more than this. Now maybe you've taken all that extra stuff and you don't have to worry about it, but don't apply to a school that you haven't taken all their prereqs, because once you click and the $100 is gone, they're not gonna give it back to you because they say, oh, you needed to take microbiology. And you're like, oh, I didn't know. So they're not all the same. Most of them are still the same, but check this out. These are some other courses that I think you guys should think about taking if you haven't. And it's not to make your application look better. It really isn't. It's to make you better prepared when you start dental school. And I see this all the time. Like, I was one of the people, history major, took the prereqs, went to dental school. Wow, that was like the worst plan ever. But it worked. I made it work. A lot of the classes I took in dental school were for the first time. I never had micro, never had biochem, never had anatomy. But most of my class was like that. We weren't as smart as you guys in terms of getting prepared. But these are all ones that are good ideas to take for your own benefit. Because realistically, if you take them and you don't get good grades in them, it may make your GPA go down, which could be counterproductive. So think about taking them more, again, to prepare, to do the best you can. But, and of course the AT, it's good for 3 years, remember, you take it. Doesn't matter if you take it more than once at our school, as long as it's getting better each time, that's fine. That's who you are at that point. So we have a pretty good record of getting people out. It's kind of the joke I tell. It's not really a joke, is that everybody thinks it's so hard to get into dental school until you start, and then you realize it's harder to get out. It is. So we have very good pass rates on national boards 1 and 2. Everybody passes eventually. This is first time. Almost everybody graduates on time. If they don't, it was usually some kind of an injury or pregnancy or something weird. And Red, this is actually really good. This is something that I would say, yeah, compare this to other schools. See how they did. 95% pass rate. So this time we just took it. 2 people failed 1 section each. The beauty of the Rev versus the old California board is that you don't have to wait 6 months to take it again. And when you retake it, you only retake the section that you failed. So our students took it in April. 2 of them failed 1 section each. By the time we got to graduation at the end of May, everybody had passed. So within that month period, we had 100%. At graduation, 100% passed the Rev. And we let everybody take it. So some schools don't let everybody take the Rev. Some schools will hold back students they think are not ready. We let everybody take it. And so everybody passed pretty quick. So this is kind of important information. If you have questions about classes that you've taken or anything else to do with the mechanics of your application, has this been received? These are the people, and they're really helpful. All of them are really good. You email them or call them, and they can answer you questions about your application. Did my letters of recommendation ever show up? Oh, that's the one, man. Don't wait on those. It's the only part of your application you have no control over. So these people are supposed to do this. And I'll point my fingers at them because I get asked to do letters of recommendation for some of our students that are applying to residency. And if I say, yes, I will do it, I have it to them in 48 hours. To sit and wait for weeks and weeks and weeks is just wrong. It's part of their job as a professor to write letters of recommendation. So the thing is, you can't push them too much, or they'll say, forget it. But just give them lots of lead time, because this is a big problem. We have so many applications that are complete, they sit there, they're waiting, and we don't get them from the admissions from the university because they're missing a letter still. They're not complete, and they just sit there. So get on those people as early as you can. So I want to tell you what we look for. And I was literally doing this. I turned my computer off and drove over here, because we have a ton of applications we're reviewing, and I look at a lot of ours. So this is what we look at as a school. Every school is different. Keep that in mind. So we look at the academics. And I'm telling you, there's 7 categories here. Everyone is weighted equally. So we look at the science GPA and your DAT score. That's 2. The next thing we look at is how many hours have you been around dentistry? Because this is the people that haven't applied yet. This is the one thing that I would say, if you don't remember anything else I told you, make sure that you do your due diligence to find out, do I really want to be a dentist? It's such a huge commitment. And to show up in dental school, because everything else looked good, you got in, it's just like, nah, I don't really like it that much. It's a disaster. Because you've borrowed a huge amount of money now, And if you drop out of dental school, you don't have 10 years to pay it back. You have to pay it back immediately. So you have $100,000, you're like, where am I going to get that? So we don't want to see anybody come to school that either looks like they're not ready or they're not convinced they really want to do it. Because this is why I'm telling you, I am not the poster child for a dental student, but the history major who went to dental school but was really convinced they wanted to do it and was just going to keep going until they told me not to come back. I got through and it was fine, but the motivation was there. And the maturity, too. That's what we talked about. Other schools, maybe, there's a student document on that, I can't look at it. There's so much stuff on there that my head wants to explode, that I think is inaccurate. The idea of a gap year, you have to decide yourself if it's worth it to me. I think a gap year is fantastic, even if it's 2 or 3. Depending on what you're doing. If you're just doing nothing, okay, that's bad. If you're taking upper division classes, you're volunteering, you're shadowing, or even if they say, I had to work to save money for dental school because it's expensive. Fine, that's a good thing to do. Again, that's for us. We won't look at that as a negative at all. Our average age is 26 of our first year class. So we look at so many things, and that's, the gap year is not a problem. So we want to make sure that you've been around it long enough to know it's what you want to do. Community service, we want to see that you've done some. Now, you can do that in a dental environment if you can find it. Maybe you did. Did you work or did you shadow there? Or
Yeah, it
volunteer?
was through IUTA, an event that DDS does, actually.
Okay.
Our
So to
organization.
me, when you put that in your application, I would count those hours as dental exposure and community service. Because it's both. You guys familiar with what UC San Diego has? They run 5 clinics. It's incredible. The undergrad pre-dental society, which is 300 people in it, they have 5 clinics that they run for underserved populations. The students, undergrad students, do everything except the dentistry. It's really incredible. So they're getting exposure and community service at the same time. So, but any community service counts. You can go back to 8th grade when your mom started making you do the stuff that my wife makes my kids do. She does something, they do something called Lion's Heart. And you can start doing it in 7th grade, and my wife makes them do it because they should. But even that, especially if it looks like you've done stuff over a period of time, even better. But for us, this is important. It's as important as your GPA. 2 chances to write something down. There's the personal statement on your ADSES application that you know is going to go everywhere. So that's not the place to say, I just love that Western because that Dr. Tucci's really whatever. Not there. You want to just say, get your path to dentistry. How did you get there? Just speak from your heart. Doesn't need to be long. Doesn't need to be Shakespeare. Use spell check. Use grammar check. But just get to the point. And just speak your mind. Say, this is how I got there. Because after reading a lot of them, you can tell if it's authentic or if it's something that somebody else might have written for them. So that's one opportunity. On our secondary application, there's also another spot. And there'll be a couple prompts there. The 2 ones that are important to me, there's one of the prompts says, if there was any dip in your grades or anything weird that happened while you were an undergrad, and you can explain it, that you had family issues or somebody passed away or I was sick, it's a great place to say, this is why my grades dropped this particular semester or whatever. And the other one is, the last prompt that's on there, it just says, basically, why Western? What is it about Western that makes you say, yeah, I think I want to go there? So even though we're a newer school, we're not really like begging people to come, but we are looking for people that kind of understand what this school's about and say, yeah, I think I fit in there. Because that's what it's all about. We just told the people we interviewed on Saturday, it's all about making a fit. It's like they should have been interviewing us as much as we were interviewing them to get to know, what's this program about? What's this like? What's the environment here? And to talk to our students, which I couldn't drag any out of clinic today, is the best way of doing it. Because I can sit here and tell you, our students are so happy, they volunteer for everything, and they're just great to work with. It's all true, but if you hear it from them, I think it's more powerful. Now, we are having another preview day on November 19th if anybody wants to come, and our students are just all over the place, and you have an opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, you're going to have to sit through something like this again, and sit there smiling and go, oh, this is interesting. Very similar. But you get to meet the dean, there's a Q&A, get to see the sim lab. But it's a really good chance to see the physical school and to, most importantly, talk to our students. And the last thing is those letters. So for us, you need 2 science professors, and the third one is from a dentist or another professor. It should be easy. If you've shadowed or worked in an office, that's going to be your best letter. The dentists never say anything bad. This is the greatest student ever. You see, as dentists, we get so excited when we have some patient or young person say, I think I want to go to dental school. Like, you do? Because everybody else comes in here and says, I hate the dentist. So when we find young people that are interested in dentistry, it's great. That's why I like coming and talking to you guys. So that should be easy. The dental letter should be easy. But if you can't get it for some weird reason, then 3 professors. We look at all of these 7 things equally. Literally. They all get scored, and they have the same values. So anyway, I'm here for any questions you guys have. I really appreciate you letting me come and talk to you guys. It's a lot of fun. Yes, sir.
What exactly did you do between your undergrad and dental school?
Oh, that's a good question. So what I actually did is I worked full-time, and I was taking all those prereqs 1 class at a time at night. So I needed to work and make money. So I was working literally 37 hours a week. The place I was working was only open 12 to 5 on Sundays. So I worked all week, and I was taking the classes at night. So, but again, the time was good for me because I was the whole time, I kept thinking, well, if I really want to do this, this shouldn't be a problem. And it really wasn't, to tell you the truth. Plus, I was getting older, more mature, and just more ready to go. Which is so funny because my brother, who's 5 years younger than me, and he applied when he was 20, and he started when he was 20, I ended up 1 class behind him, which was great. Because he went through all the misery the first year, and by the time I got there, he's like, okay, this book, don't even take the wrapper off. For this class, study old tests. And I had it made. Now, I don't know how you got through the first year, especially being only 20 years old. Had never lived away from home. I moved to San Francisco, and he was just in dental school. It's like, the guy's amazing. He's always been more mature than he still is. No question.
And you might ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
When did you decide you wanted to be a dentist? Did you decide before going to undergrad and becoming a history major, or was it during undergrad?
No, it was way after undergrad, actually. So when I was in 8th grade, at the end of the year, they put everybody's name in the yearbook and say they predicted what people were going to be. And for me, they put dentist. And I thought, because a bunch of the people that went to my dad was one of the dentists in town, so everybody knew he was a dentist. And I was like, are you kidding me? It's like, I had all these other things I was going to do. I'm like, I'm not going to be a dentist for sure.
Almost escaped.
Yeah. And my dad never tried to push me towards it. Even when I told him I wanted to go, he just went, all right. Because I think he knew it's like, are you doing this for me or are you doing it for you? And so I just started thinking more about it. My brother was really getting ready to apply. I had taken most of the prereqs, or some of the prereqs ahead of time. But I thought, man, do I really want to do that? And when I started hanging around more in my dad's office, not just to come for lunch, but to actually see what he was doing, spent a lot of time doing lab work, I said, no, I think I really like this. So I had to start taking the rest of the classes. So for me, it was a gradual process. And it was almost like I said no just because he was a dentist, which is stupid, but that's what young people do sometimes. Yeah, it's true. True story. That's it.
So having gone to UOP and gone through a 3-year program, I was curious, like, what's your take on the 3 versus 4 year thing? Like, how does Western do with the extra year?
The funny part about that is I really can't tell you because I don't know anything different. I just know what I did. It seems normal. But at the same time, people say, oh, UOP is so intense. Well, not really. So what they do, they start beginning of July. You go 10 weeks, week of finals, 2 weeks off. That's 13 weeks. Times 4 is 52. So 4 times a year, you get 2 weeks off. It's still kind of a lot of vacation considering you're getting a whole extra year. So think about it like this. Instead of, if dental schools were on the quarter system, like a lot of undergrads are, you go 3 quarters for some reason. I don't know why they call them quarters. 3 quarters a year is a year. So UP, they just do 4 quarters for 3 years instead of 3 quarters for 4 years. That adds up to 12 quarters. It's the same. And I'm telling you, when I used to come home from school for those 2-week breaks, I'd be like, I come home Friday night after finals, we're eating and having a good time, and the weekend was fun. Monday morning would come, and I'm like, everybody I know is at work. Like, nobody's home, my car's in San Francisco, and it's like, oh. It's like, I want to go back to school, this is horrible. So the time off was plenty. You guys are smart. You guys get off of school and you go places and do things now. Our students, oh yeah, we went to Venezuela and somebody went to Cuba over the last break in our school. I'm like, they go everywhere. Well, I guess they're using their student loan money, but I don't know. They're just they go do stuff. I didn't do too much. So. Yes, sir.
Speaking of loans, could you touch a little bit on the financial aid possibilities?
It's super easy. It's 3 or 4 clicks and the money's in your account. It's really easy to get. Paying it back is a different story. There's a lot of, people are getting, in fact, I was speaking with the financial guy here for the dental school before we started, and, people are getting more and more creative. And one of the things that's really good for our students is because they're so familiar with community-based dentistry, a lot of them now are getting out and they're getting jobs with community clinics, and they maybe go work there for 3 or 4 years. They're getting paid, but it pays off their student loans as well. So they get it. There's military scholarships that are also fantastic, where if you can get it ahead of time, you get it before you go to dental school. They pay for everything, and then you give them 4 years after. The problem is there's not that many of them. I think the Army has 72 and the Navy has 65 for the whole country. So it's a little more than 1 per school per year. Oddly enough, one of my favorite students at UCLA, she was such a nice girl, still is, but she had the Navy scholarship. I remember saying, I'm really proud of you because, you're going to serve our country after, and she goes, oh, my parents made me do it. Well, still, you got it, and I think that's great. And then I saw her at the California Dental Association meeting, and I said, what are you doing here? Why aren't you in uniform? After graduation, I was already at Western, and she said, I failed the physical afterwards. Something had changed in her health. She failed the physical, and they just said, well, good luck. You don't have to pay anything back. So I don't know if that's something you want to plan. It's capable of doing it. But she got all the school paid for and she didn't have to pay it back. But even doing the 4 years, the beauty about being in the military is that there's no malpractice. You can do anything. They can't sue you. You get all kinds of really good experience. You don't have to worry about running an office. You're an officer. You get paid. You get tons of time off. Yes, you may not like where you're located, but it's a short time. Even if you go in the service, you don't get the scholarship, and you go in the military afterwards, Army and Navy still gives $150,000 signing bonus, which is a pretty good chunk towards paying your loan back. And then again, you're in for 4 years, you get a good salary, and you're an officer, and all the benefits. And you get such good experience. So when you get out and you go to practice somewhere, someone will hire you like this because they know your speed is up, you've done a bunch of procedures. It's a really good opportunity. But those community dentistry ones are also. Other than that, our students are still paying their loans back if they just go out and start working. But it's pretty massive. I would think to get out of SC, it's got to be a little more than us. And most of our students are finishing school with about $400,000 in debt. Yet, it's getting harder to get in. So you tell me what's going on. It must be that U.S. News and World Report thing. So dentistry, we got actually knocked down a notch this year in 2016. Best jobs, not best healthcare, just best jobs. We got pushed to number 2 by orthodontics. So at least it's in the family, it's still good. But the last one that they ran in 2016, those were the 2 top jobs. So people must be listening. So but yeah, it's a lot to consider. I mean, it's not nothing, it's something.
Any more questions for Dr. Turchi? No? One more round of applause. Thank you. We really appreciate it. That was awesome.
You guys enjoyed the student meeting? Yeah. Enjoy bowling?
Yeah. Let's clap them all the way up. All the way up. All right. Awesome. Great presentation. I was fully the whole time. I can't say for a lot of you. Okay, before you guys go, oh yeah, please remember to sign in. That's one thing. Just say that you were here, put your signature or something. Also, if you guys got the email and you signed up to be a mentor, please contact your mentees as soon as possible. I know I haven't even contacted mine. It's been a really busy week. I understand if you haven't either. But as soon as possible, try to set up a first meeting and get to know your mentee, and then you can proceed from there and ask any other questions. Okay? All right. Have a great day. See you next week. Actually, won't see you next week.
Okay.
That was probably one of the best things.
Yeah, I wasn't even before. I was like,
Yeah, the whole
the
time.
technology is so. I saw that on Instagram, like, it was like we met, like, or actually met one of their seniors in anatomy.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any of them recently.
I haven't either. So I see that.
We have PBL, so it's moving lecture rates. It's all about. Make sure we're doing this. So confused now. Every time I roommate ties my time because I can't do it or like want that like I practice